Are you ready? Can Crushers. It don't really get no better than this the podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah. Can Crushers. Yeah. Can Crushers. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. It is the Spotlight Show, and I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez. Man, I am super excited to talk to my guest today, Anna Diaz, and not about wrestling, but she is a wrestler, and we'll talk wrestling, but I want to learn from Anna. I want to learn because she has battled epilepsy since a young age, and she has essentially, we'll have to find out from her, I guess, kind of defeated it a little bit because, hell, she's a professional wrestler right now. She's trained by Gangrel, and we'll get into all of that, but I want to hear her story about how epilepsy, because we don't know a lot. I mean, we know a lot, but it's not talked about, so we need to talk about it more. How it affects her in-ring, her training, her day-to-day life, and how we, me, and you can all kind of help if we see somebody having a seizure. Just to learn. This has really been a learning interview for me that I wanted to look forward to and learn about, Anna's life in general. So we'll get her on the line, and then when we come back, we'll learn a lot. But guys, you have to know that we have to tell you about cool things. Collar and elbow, hat, hoodies, tees, all that cool stuff that Al Snow and his hooligans have down at collarandelbowwrestling.com. Make sure you check them out. Releasing a ton of stuff right now. A ton of new shirts. Sunset Flip, this, that, and the other. They're all cool. Put them all in your little cart and use the promo code Can Crushers. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. All one word. You'll save 10% off your whole order. So, yeah, check that out. Guys, if you want to be part of the show, cancrusher69@gmail.com. We'll schedule you something. Or hit us up on all our socials. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All of it's at cancrusher69. You'll find us out there. And then you can listen to us. Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio. The list can go on and on and on. But we're out there. Whatever your platform is, type in Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Go back and listen to all our spotlights that we have from, day one-ish until, this one. This would be the newest one out there. And then listen to our weekly shows on Sundays as Jenks and I, oh man, we really mess up our predictions and stuff like that because we think we know wrestling and we don't. We're still giant marks, and I was aptly named by my mother because I'm a mark, and I love it. All right, guys, I'm going to get Anna on the phone. Here comes Al Snow to tell you more about Collar and Elbow, and then we'll dive into the interview with Anna Diaz.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back to Can Crushers. Guys, you heard me talk about my guest today. I'm super excited to hear her story. Didn't do a lot of digging like I normally do because it's her story that Gangrel posted that I instantly reached out and I'm like, man, I need to hear this. She's been in the ring with Camille, Red Velvet, Kylie King, of course Gangrel, and my cousin, Mercedes Martinez recently. Welcome to the show, Anna Diaz. How are you?
Awesome. I am great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Is she really your cousin?
On the show, she is. We have the same last name.
You.
Yeah. Thanks for ruining that to everybody now. No, it's okay.
Oh no, but thank you for having me. And that what a list. I forgot. I did work Red Velvet, and I have been in the ring with Gangrel, but definitely not as an opponent.
Yeah, partnered.
Partnered, yes. I'd like to keep it that way with the vampire.
Right, for sure. And we'll get to all of that. About 6 years in the business, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh my God! Now you're dating me and making me old. That's okay.
I'm sorry. It's a habit. But yeah, I started at the age of 15, and I literally just turned 15. Wow. And I am 21 today, so it's been a while.
Are you legit 4th of July? Guys, we're ruining this. You're legit a 4th of July baby?
Like that's my birthday?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought you meant that you're 21 today, meaning holy shit, on the 4th of July, I am bothering you on your birthday, I thought. I'm like, oh, no.
No, I mean, that'd be pretty cool, but
yeah.
No, I'm actually a December baby.
Okay, well then, happy birthday. That was I'm kidding. Yeah, now you know where the podcast go. Before we get into wrestling, though, super excited. We back and forth, both of us. We had this set up for a while. Schedule just crashed and burned, and then somebody decides, "Hey, I'm going to a concert last night," and I'm super jealous. How was that?
I was not expecting to go, and unfortunately, Gangrel, my stepdad, couldn't make it back in time because it was actually a surprise that my mom bought the tickets for him because he really loves Steve Miller Band. So he's like, please go with your mom and have a good time for me and blah, 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 because he didn't want to waste the tickets. And I do like them. And we went there, and it was a pretty good show. I'm not going to lie. Although it's like totally different from from the concerts I'm used to going. Like I'm used to going and seeing like Motley Crue or Joan Jett playing, and then I'm there.
A little harder stuff.
Yes, and then like I'm there like sitting with probably like I'm the youngest person in the crowd, listening to like blues and like Steve Miller Band like music. Not knocking it. It was really good. And for like 70, he's like 78. He can still play. Like
that's awesome. What fourth wall down? When I saw it, I'm like, oh man, she's gonna go to this. It was okay that we moved the pod, and I really mean this, Anna. It was okay we moved the podcast. I was more jealous that you were going when I saw the. I'm like, I hate her a little bit right now because it is just a mellow concert, right?
Yeah, no, I've never seen them before. I know like every song they played, I pretty much knew because it's Gangrel's type of music, and I'm always with him. So yeah, it was a mellow concert. I actually really enjoyed it.
Cool. All right, let's do the rewind and get into wrestling. When you were little, Anna, who was the first person that introduced you to wrestling? Was it Mom, Uncle Joe, Aunt Jan? Anybody who said, "Hey, Anna, watch this"?
So I'm going to say my dad. It was my dad and my brother would definitely always watch wrestling growing up. And me wanting to be like my brother, I wanted to do like same stuff he does and hang out with him. So definitely once I saw them watching it all the time, I'm like, I need to see what this is about. But we weren't really like, we didn't start off as a WWE type of family. Like they would always put on TNA, like that's Impact now, but
right.
I would always watch Impact Wrestling growing up.
Wow. That's I'm not saying that's weird, but normally it takes a minute to, because accessible, essentially, because TNA, Impact, whatever you want to call it, really wasn't spotlighted anywhere, but you had to find it, where WWE was like in your face. So that's shocking within itself. So this is going to throw me for a loop then. When you're young, who's some of your favorites? I mean, we know them now, and I'm sure you're going to name some of them, but who's some of your favorites that you watched?
So one of my favorites that was my favorite and still to this day is Mickie James. Absolutely incredible. I love watching her. But again, funny enough, it's Mickie James in TNA.
Right.
Tara. I watched
Terrell?
a lot of.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Gail Kim and like Madison Rayne. And then eventually when I got into WWE, it was a lot of I want to say Lita and Michelle McCool.
Okay. So remember that question I asked you about that I said when we get to it, don't say anything? I will just forewarn you, I probably epically failed. Just to let you know. I might have one, but I may have epically failed. But we'll get there. So your childhood, though, is full of sports. I found this website that you created, and, you were very athletic from day one, essentially, right?
Yeah. I think I'm not like naturally athletic, but
Trained
I definitely
athletically then.
Yes, like I grew to be athletic because my mom put me in gymnastics at the age of 6. I did that for over a decade. I did it competitively as well, which was a ton of fun. I also did cheerleading in school, flag football with my brother, and a little bit of karate and like MMA.
Wow. Yeah. So you kind of have the gist out of all of it.
Yeah, I dove into a little bit of everything, but gymnastics is definitely my favorite.
So having that in your back pocket as a youngster, when did the dream become a reality? That you're like, all right, I've watched this since Mickie James was in Impact. I'm making a phone call. Talk me up until how you made the call to get into wrestling.
So, I believe I couldn't tell you what year it was, but it was when I was finishing out high school. I was homeschooled, so it was a little tough for me, but definitely homeschooled. So basically all day I would watch wrestling, and that was like the era that I was actually diving into WWE from TNA. And then I just remember picking up my phone while I was watching WWE, and I just started looking up like pro wrestling schools near me, like the closest one. And I looked, and the closest one was in Fort Lauderdale. Now, granted, at the time I lived in Miami, so that's not necessarily close.
It's a little bit of a haul, yeah.
It was, but after that, I somehow got the courage to ask my mom, and I was like, "Hey, this is what I wanted. This is really what I want to do." And I remember like crying and being so scared to tell her. And she's like, "You want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah," like crying. And she's like, "Okay, we'll do it." Like, and she's always been so supportive, and that's always how she's been. Like, I want to do anything. At the snap of a finger, she'll take me, and it's like, let's jump into it.
I love your mom already. Awesome. That's
right.
Because you don't hear that story a lot.
You don't know.
That's awesome. So how you picked your training facility first day in, or did they have to run you through the gauntlet at first to see if they accepted you? Or was it just, and I don't mean this mean, because I know Gangrel's isn't where you're at now, but there's some people like, just give me your money and you're going to sink or swim, essentially. Was that one, and you don't have to name names, was that one kind of like that, or
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like that, but fortunately, Gangrel came around later in my training and helped out. So, but yeah, it was more of like, okay, they were just honestly happy. One, for the money. Two, that it was a girl, because when I went there, there was only one other girl. And they were really happy. Like they saw me going through all the roles, and then they saw that I could bridge because of gymnastics. I was able to do that like no problem. And then you have like these grown men like struggling to walk their hands down the wall.
That would
So
be
they
me, by the way. That would be me.
and there's no shame in that. But it was just a lot easier for me, because in gymnastics we would do these roles like como si nada with no problem. And they were just excited that I was kind of able to do like the beginner stuff, which made them move me on faster, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, perfect sense. Well, you had a pedigree essentially going into wrestling training, gymnastics, martial arts, football essentially, because cardio and being roughhoused around a little bit, even though if it was flag football. I mean, you had a pedigree going into wrestling, just knowing this is what I'm going to do. Subconsciously in your mind, you knew you were getting into wrestling without getting into wrestling at age 7 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, and I knew it was somehow what I was gonna do and how I was gonna get there. I mean, it was a process, but here I am.
So talk to me about the first day of training. When you get into the training, was it just like, was it easy? Or you're like, this is going to suck for a little bit?
So the first day of training, I don't remember exactly. I do remember that it was more of watching a little bit of what they're doing, and it was a small group too. It was just watching what they were doing, and then they invited me into the ring to go over the roles, because with wrestling, like the first couple weeks, all you're gonna do are rolls.
Right.
So it was a lot of rolls, forward, back, handstand rolls, stuff to see how long I can like hold up without getting dizzy or throwing up or whatever. So that was pretty much my whole day. And I was honestly like back then I was a super super shy person. Like throughout like that training center for about like a year, I didn't speak a word to anybody. I would just nod my head yes or like shake my head no. I was so freaking shy. Like
Is that when Gangrel came around, scooped you up, and said, "Hey, you're a professional wrestler. You have to learn." And I'm not saying this meanly. You have to learn how to talk. You have to learn how to sell yourself a little bit.
Yeah, like, and he would see that. He would also see that when he came around, it was honestly when he would actually help with drills and footwork and things that normal trainers today don't work on. So it was super super scary, and he pushes the people really really hard, which is what you need. It's like, but he also does that to see who lasts, who isn't meant for this. As hard as that sounds, like you have to have grit to be able to stay and keep on pushing and pushing.
Ruthie said the same thing about Gangrel. You have to. It's almost, not saying it's like the old school beat the hell out of yourself to see if you're going to be it. It is giving you the will, the power, essentially the success too, because you're building your cardio as you're doing all of this.
He makes it to where you have to, like, if you're not already resilient, you have to learn, and you have to grow and know how to be resilient by that point. There have been so many times, and I've said this on other podcasts, where I've run to the bathroom and just like started crying because it's hard. But I always kept on coming back, and I guess he saw something in me.
Right? And that's a pat on your back. WWE, you know, he's the man. He still travels the world. I mean, you know this better than I do, but you know, he is loved in the business, and he is respected more so than loved. So he's not just he's a vampire wrestler. Cool for him. He's got this gimmick. No, he is the man. He is, and I'm going to say this nicely because I know a lot of other ones. He's one of the top trainers in wrestling, hands down.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm not saying that like biasly, because I see, and I work with a lot of other girls, and I see and I know who they're trained by and things of that nature. And there are a lot of other good trainers out there, but it's just not as specific and as detailed as how he takes it. Like he'll spend like 1 or 2 months out on the floor doing rolls until you do that correctly. And then once you get in the ring, there are no ropes, just rolls, bumps, things like that, and footwork. He spends a lot of extra time on footwork because he really believes that that's a solid foundation. And you can, after that, you can grow upon and learn other styles of training. But you have to he teaches that foundation first.
yeah. And without that, you got nothing. You have Mark in the ring rolling around like an idiot, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Thank you, Anna. At least you slid right into that easily.
Being honest.
Okay, good. So let's talk about your first match. Tell me about the jitters. Tell me about what's going on. And then we're going to get to, essentially, because we're at the meat and potatoes of why you're on here, and you can just speak. But let's talk about your first match. You don't remember it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I know like the beginning of my career per se. I know my very, very first like outing into a crowd was a battle royal. Of course that doesn't count. But
right.
Actually my first match was with Jimmy Janetti, because he was actually one of my trainers at the time. So they wanted to put me, since they knew I was so shy, they wanted to put me with somebody that they knew I was comfortable with and that can lead me through a great match. And then I actually decided to go under a hood. So I bought this Lucha Dragon mask, this red Lucha Dragon mask had to be like Amazon or I don't even know what. And I had like fiery long red hair at the time.
I didn't see any of this. Again, I didn't do a lot of digging because I want your next advocacy story to be the most of it. But yeah, go ahead. But I'm going to find it.
I'll send you a picture afterwards.
Okay.
It was very not me to the today. So, but yeah, I came out as the Red Dragon, and I was extremely nervous, even under the mask. But I did a lot of matches under that Red Dragon name and mask, and it actually, because I was so shy, it actually helped and improved my selling like a lot, because I would actually start to sell like under the mask too. So eventually, after a couple matches with it, I just didn't need it anymore.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that story that you just said, because maybe that's something that others should use. They're more worried about, and this is Mark saying this is not Anna, they're more worried about getting out there in the glitz and the glamour right off the bat. But you can tell that they're not confident. There's indies. There's indie up here in Pennsylvania that I go to. Good friends with a lot of them. But you see, the first match jitters, and you're like, man, you're selling something, but your face says, "Oh shit, what am I doing?"
Yeah, it says I'm about to crap myself. Like,
yeah, right.
But no, I believe it worked for me. I believe it's a really good tool, like for people that are either shy or insecure. Maybe you never know. But I mean, confidence is also something that I struggle with today. So
right. All right, so we're at the part of it. We'll wrap back around to wrestling. This will do with wrestling as well. But Anna is a strong advocate for epilepsy, and she's had it essentially all your life, right? You can tell the whole story. And she has battled and battled and battled and battled. So this is my point where I just want to say, Anna, run with this. Tell us, your issues in training in the ring. When did you find this? Just your whole story, because epilepsy is nothing to, shake a stick at. And when I was talking to my wife about this, she's like, oh my God, not a huge wrestling fan, but she's like, I need to know more because she loves people. She wants to make sure she takes care of them. She works in retail and I know how does this wrap to wrestling, Mark? It's just taking care of people that we don't know. I don't know a lot about it. And I want to learn. If, somebody has a seizure, what do I do? So I want all that knowledge. And this is your platform. We'll get around to the stupid stuff and more wrestling stuff. But this is you. Run with it, girl, because I'll pop in to say, wait, what? But run. Tell me everything you possibly can, because we don't talk about it a lot. In general, in the United States, we don't talk about it. It's just like, epilepsy is out there. So go ahead. I'm rambling now.
No, it's just been hidden for a long, long time, and it still is. Epilepsy, as from what I know, is the most common, is the third most common neurological disorder among children. So you get diagnosed with it at a very young age. Not meaning that you can't get it when you're freaking 80, because literally all walks of life, all different ages, you can get epilepsy. And I don't think people really know that you don't have to have a seizure to say, hey, I have epilepsy. Literally anybody can have a seizure in their lifetime. I believe the statistic is 1 in 10 people will experience a seizure. And when that happens, they're not going to know what to do. That's why I'm really big on teaching seizure first aid with organizations or businesses or anybody that wants to learn it, because it could be a really dangerous thing for somebody.
For sure. I mean, like I just said, my wife wanting to know what happens if somebody comes in the store, and it's just it should be taught everywhere. It really should, because it's life or death then, right?
So, sometimes it could be. There's something called SUDEP. It's sudden death of epilepsy, which is one seizure can unfortunately take your life. It's not common, thank God, but it has happened, and I know people it's happened too. So it's still very scary. Depending on what kind of seizures you have, because there are many types of seizures. They can affect different areas of your brain, and sometimes it's not curable. Like for me, I have no idea why I have epilepsy, and they were never able to figure it out. Only 70% of the time, 70% of the time, the person is going to know why they have epilepsy, is not going to know why they have it. Only 30% of people actually know why. And
wow.
That's really frustrating.
That's scary. It's legit scary. Yeah. I just got goosebumps right now. That's scary.
Huh?
That it's scary to know only 30% of the people. Wow.
But I've had it since I think I was born, but it was discovered at the age of 6 when I had my first seizure, and they used to be really, really bad. They would call from school when I would have a seizure, or I would drop. I've had multiple hits to the head where I've gotten my skull cracked open. As well as there's a lot of treatments for epilepsy, but there's no cure for it. So it's a lot of trial and error. So I went through so many medications, at least 50 different types of medications, as well as going to New York to see a different opinion, to trying medical with marijuana, for that not working. And recently I had in 2012, I had 2 brain surgeries, which was basically like the last resort type thing because nothing else worked. And it was to go in to take the scar tissue of what caused the seizures to take it out. There was a complication with that, and they had to go in a third time, so that turned into 3-step procedure. But they did end up taking it out, but some of it, and it ended up being that I was seizure free for a year. So it did help to a certain extent, but of course it was no cure. They came back they came back after that year, and that was very frustrating. And throughout middle school and high school, I would have seizures at school and fall and hit my head. There was bullying, like, oh, you're the girl that falls and shakes on the ground and whatever, like just stupid stuff like that.
Do you have certain, and I'm legit asking this because I don't know, is there triggers for seizures? Like you hear, like when you watch Stranger Things or something, there might be flashing. Can that set you off, or heat, or clearly you have to take shots to the head, so.
Yeah, so that doesn't really help. That doesn't
help.
But,
right.
But actually, so flashing lights isn't really a myth when it comes to epilepsy because it is a trigger for some people, but it's a trigger that's like really rare in people. But it is a trigger. Mine are definitely heat. So like if I stay outside for too long, or if the show that I'm doing is outside, I'm probably not going to stay for the whole show because seizures will start to happen. So definitely heat and just being stressed or overtired.
Have you ever had one in training, or I don't want to say. Well, I'm going to ask in a match or anything that kind of like just shifted the whole gear of what you were doing that day, or has it not interrupted your wrestling yet?
So I've had seizures in training. Like if I work out for let's say we're doing drills, and then I'll stop and sit down for a second. It's usually when my body is tired, and then when it shuts down and it's calm, because then it all hits me. But I would be like sitting aside, just take my medicine, wait for it to pass. There was one occasion where I was in a match, but it was actually it was in the middle of a spot where my ring positioning, I was able to get to the corner to kind of let the seizure pass, and then I was fine, and I kept on going. So I wasn't in contact with the person, thank God.
Wow. After the match, did you talk to whomever and say thank you for like not hitting me during this and giving me a break?
I think I don't remember if I told her. I remember I wasn't very vocal about it. I wasn't very vocal about it. In like middle school to high school, I was very depressed about it. I was homeschooled, like I said, and I felt super trapped and depressed. Like, why do I have this? Why me? Things like that. But it's only happened. It's only occurred a couple years, like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, where I'm like, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and I can't change the fact that it's there. So, like, F it. I just need to roll with it. That's actually why I got the Serenity Prayer tattooed on my ribs, because that's something that I really do try to live my life by every day.
That was one of the questions coming up. So yeah, I'm like how you segue into that. And we'll wrap back around to that. But I want to stay with epilepsy here for a second. What happens, or tell us, or me, or whoever's listening, if we see somebody having a seizure, what do we do? Like, what's the first, and lead us through the whole thing of helping this person instead of sitting there with our hands tied saying, I don't know what to do because I'm not trained.
So first aid for pretty much any seizure is you need to stay calm and you need to reassure the ones around you. Like, you don't want to crowd the person. After that, you want to try and cushion the head, because if they're shaking and their muscles are tightening, you don't want them hitting their head harder than they already did when they fell. This is a big one that you want to turn them on their side, which it's called the recovery position. So anything that's in their mouth, like if they're drooling or something, it'll just fall to the floor. You don't put anything in their mouth, because that is a big myth that it can be very dangerous if you do that to somebody. You also do not restrain them. You don't hold them down, because they're in the middle of a seizure. They don't know if you're trying to hurt them or attack them or anything. So they might start fighting back. So that check if they have a medical ID that says maybe, hey, they have a bracelet that says epilepsy on it. So that can give you a little more information about the person. And you want to stay with the person until they're aware of everything around them. And definitely the big one is don't put anything in their mouth, and don't move them. You want to move objects around them that could be hazards, but you don't move them.
And clearly call 911. I mean, right? You know, they
So with calling 911, there's a couple scenarios that you do, because a seizure is actually not an emergency. So, but if it's a first-time seizure, of course you call 911. If the seizure happens in water, you call 911, because people with epilepsy like me, like, I can't go swimming alone, because if I have a seizure, what's going to happen? But even if you get me out of the water and I had a seizure, you don't know if there's still water in my lungs or in my system, so you want to be cautious. If the person's diabetic or the person is pregnant, you want to call 911. And if the seizure lasts more than 5 minutes, that's when you want to call 911.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot to take in, and
it's a lot of information.
It is. So guys, go back and listen to that some more. Listen to it, as much as you can. And one, thank you for all of that. Thank you for telling that part of your life. And anything else that we should know before we truck on and kind of lighten back up a little bit, because that's rough. I'm very visual in my head, and I just, knowing you, seeing your picture and everything, now I pictured you having, and this is Mark being stupid, but now I feel bad because I pictured you having a seizure. I'm like, this poor young girl with everything ahead of her is, battling and struggling with this, and I would be a mute in the corner, and that would bother me the rest of my life.
Yeah, so I mean, like, right now, I'm definitely in a better place with my seizures. Not like about a year ago, I had 5 other brain surgeries done, because they were going to try and take the piece that's causing the seizures out of my brain. They found out that they couldn't, because then I wouldn't be able to be mobile on my left side.
Oh man.
So it's too close. Yeah, it's too close to my motor function, but they actually put in something called a neuropace, which is basically a pacemaker. So whenever I have a seizure or I feel something coming on, the pacemaker sends like electrical signals and actually stops it and like records the data. So that has actually helped me quite a bit to where I won't have as big seizures anymore.
Good. So talk about that in the wrestling. You really can't take headshots, right? I mean, you shouldn't, but I'm sure you do, because you're slowly wrapping around to being a badass, because it's crazy that you chose professional wrestling as your career with this Do you call it a sickness or a disease yourself?
I mean, I love what I love, and I mean, I didn't let it hold me back. I still have my moments where it's very frustrating, but again, just have to keep pushing through it. But with the headshots, I do take headshots.
Yeah, you do.
But honestly, I usually don't tell the person that, like, if they didn't know, like, I usually don't tell them, like, hey, watch my head, just because I don't want to be like that girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I try not to take like too many face bumps, because for some reason, like, certain movements, when I bump, aggravates my head, but it'll aggravate it in a way where I'll get like a super big headache.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you just
it
kind of
doesn't.
chill out then.
Yeah, so it doesn't trigger a seizure. It just, like, certain movements in the ring, like, sometimes rolls, or, like I said, face bumps, I've noticed, can like trigger like a really big headache, and like a pulsing feeling in the area where the battery of the pacemaker is. But it's still kind of like a learning process of figuring out what aggravates it and what doesn't.
How long does that battery last? Like, essentially, you're 21. You're a baby yet. I'm 45, so you're a baby. Is this battery going to last forever, or there's? I hate to say this. There's more brain surgeries in your future, right?
Yes. So the battery lasts 8 years, which is a good amount of time, but it is kind of annoying that you have to go back in and change it. But I believe the procedure to go back in is not like, it's not opening your skull. I think it's just like they put an incision and then just replace the battery. So I don't think it's as invasive.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I believe,
Whew,
yeah.
for both of us. I mean, you more, but I'm like, man, she's just gonna 8 years. You're 20. You're 21. I keep battering that out there, but that means 29. That means 37. That means 46. I mean, holy crap, that's your life. So maybe better batteries will come by the time you have to have your next one. It'll be like a 25-year battery or something. That would be great.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, they're advancing with a lot of the stuff that they're doing. This NeuroPace thing is still kind of new. So I can only imagine what they have like 8 years from now. You never know.
Right. All right. Let's shift gears. Again, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the information. Thank you for the knowledge. I really appreciate that. Guys, if anything, follow Anna for wisdom on epilepsies and seizures and all of that. I'm sure you'd reach out, and we'll give your socials at the end of the show. You'll reach out and help people because you're a strong advocate for this. If somebody says, hey, Anna, I really want to know something like this, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm sure you would give your advice, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, so let's find out. This is a question. Now, let's find out who Anna Diaz is in wrestling. And this is where I pause you and I say, all right, I watched wrestling. I watched a couple of your matches. These are the three people that I think that you are. Number one, Sasha Banks, because that backstabber is freaking legit. And that was not even the word that I was thinking about, but your backstabber is amazing. So I saw that. Your MMA and your sleeper hold and everything, the way that you rap, I think that's a lot of Ronda. And then I have Mox, and it's only because of your tights and the whole camo and everything, so you kind of remind me of Moxley that way. Once you started mentioning Mickie James and Gail Kim, and I'm like, oh shit, I am not close. How close am I, or how far am I off?
So you're pretty close. No, yes, I said those are the ones I grew up watching, but I am far from Mickie James. Like, I am so not her. Like, I would have to say Moxley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be the closest, because I don't think I'm not as sassy as Sasha Banks.
That was the move set, I think. I see that in the move, a little bit of a move set. of Sasha. Your finishers from Ronda. But as your person, for sure, yeah, you're definitely Mox, because there's times that you're a Sour Patch Kid. I'll put it that way. That's probably the best way of putting it.
Okay, listen, I've told so many people that.
And I didn't know that. All right. So you're a Sour Patch Kid. You really are. You're a son of a bitch, but then you turn out to be a sweetheart.
I have my moments, yep.
All right. So I'm taking that as a win. I really am.
Yeah. You've had a couple wins in this episode.
I did. Thank God, because I've been losing epically recently. Let's talk about some stupid stuff, and let's talk about a day off. And I mean, no wrestling, no gym, no. What do you do? What do you nerd out about? Besides the Steve Miller Band.
No
I'm
gym?
kidding. Yeah.
Whoa.
Those days don't come around a lot, I know, but let's just pretend.
Okay, we're pretending. No, usually I do like to write a lot. So during the pandemic, I got into writing just how I was feeling and journaling, stuff like that, which kind of turned into a love for poetry. So when I have time for it, I do like to write poetry.
Do you have anything out there published, or do you share yet?
Not really. I think on my Instagram, I may have like one picture that has something I wrote, but I don't tend to put it out there much.
Okay.
I read a little bit. It takes a lot to find a book that interests me, but when I do, I'll have at it. And a good walk to the beach.
Well, we don't have that in Pennsylvania, so okay.
a good walk to the beach. And honestly, on my days off, I like to work on my organization and fundraiser type of things to get that going a little bit more.
I'm going to revert back to journaling here real quick. I essentially just started journaling because my buddy said it, mental health is a huge thing on our show. We talk about that as well. So my buddy's is like, hey, I've been journaling for 6 months. Why don't you try this? I'm like, hey, whatever. I got to find time, this, that, and the other. So I started. I said, all right, my goal was to start July 1st and to dedicate for sure a whole year journal, keep it going the whole year to see what. And I know we're only on, again, spoiler, we're on the 4th, but man, it helps me go to sleep a lot better because at night you sit down and you take those few minutes to write something down. Your head's not going 900 miles an hour as you put your head to the pillow. And that's only within the first 3 days. That's
absolutely,
it's crazy. Again, something that we should tell everybody about. Write something at night so you get tired or all those crazy thoughts get out of your head.
Yeah, and I read the other day just write every half hour, pick up a notebook and just write how you're feeling. Just something so small like that can really improve your day. Because for me during the pandemic, it was when I was putting things on paper, it made me really see what is going on with me, and 2, it kind of calmed me down a little bit. It gave me some control over my feelings, if that makes sense.
No, perfect sense, at least to me now. I don't write because I have a handwriting of a 6-month-old, so I use this app called Day One, and I just text everything to myself.
You should I actually tell everybody this, that for journaling and for wrestling, Gangrel will say, hey, you need a promo partner, so you send promos back and forth. But I'll tell them you also need a promo notebook to write it down, pen and paper, because when you do that, you actually have a pen in your hand, you're writing on paper. That's a form of actually memorizing it and learning it as well. So get yourself a pen and a paper.
So scrap the app.
Yes, scrap the app. That's my opinion. I'm a sucker for notebooks. I have 5 of them that I use every day.
All right. I'll listen to my buddy about journaling because I think it's helped. But if it's let me put it Mark's way. I guess the emotions then coming out of your arm and your fingers and everything on paper, it's more tangible than, I know there's an app and I can open it back up and this, that, and the other, but it's there. It's, I can forget the apps on my phone, where if I'm walking by and I look at it in the kitchen or the studio, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should read 2 weeks ago's journal because I'm miserable, and that's the same way I was feeling. I like your idea. I wrap it around the wrong ways, Anna. I really do. But it makes sense to me now. I like the whole paper and pen thing.
I like paper and pen when it comes to anything. Like I did a seminar the other day, and he's like, "Oh, if you want to take out your phone to take notes, it's perfectly fine." I run to my bag and get my legal pad with a pen, and I'm just like, "Yeah, pen and paper." Like a total geek.
Do you nerd out over video games, or clearly you're a big music fan, like you said, Motley Crue and so on and so forth, but is there anything else that, if you really aren't doing your advocate stuff or anything, that you're like, I'm just going to play WWE 2K or something?
I'm honestly not a big video game fan, to be honest. Not that I'm not a fan. That was the wrong word. I'm just not a video game person.
Okay.
Reading
is your thing. Reading and journaling.
Yeah, I'll definitely nerd out if I go to CVS and I go to the back to school section and look at their shut up. If I go through their journals and I obviously don't need more, but I'll look at them and be like, oh my God, this one's so nice. I need it, but I really don't.
I'm laughing because you made it specific that it's back to school. They're there all year round, Anna. Well, but you just need the back to school one. I'm sorry.
Well, their school section,
I know what you mean.
Everybody knows what I mean. So
right.
Back to school it is.
Okay. You brought up your tattoo, and please, tell us about it. I know what it means, but people that don't know, you have it on TikTok and in other forms, but talk about your tattoo.
So, Gangrel actually made it my homework one practice, and I was so very terrified of him at the time, but I literally, my homework was to practice the Serenity Prayer and to memorize it. So I did. I literally went over it over and over and over again, and I would get mad at myself if I couldn't remember it. And literally did it like homework. And he would just always preach that to me. And finally, when I decided to stop being depressed, stop letting all my other shit take control of me, I read it and I'm like, it makes sense. So that's why I do it, because it makes sense, and it can go for anybody. It goes, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, because some things you just can't change, just like epilepsy. I can't change that. Courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So the wisdom to know the difference between the things you can change and the things you can't, which is something I definitely need to go by and need to do more of, because some things you honestly just cannot change. You can't control them, even though you really want to.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny, I learned so much from, and I'm going to say independent wrestlers, because you all have a different story. And I knew the Serenity Prayer, not as much as you did, but I knew of it from everything. But just your words now hitting me, I'm anxiety driven. Okay, let's just throw that out there. Everybody that listens to Can Crushers knows that. And I always thought, how can I get away from this? I can't. I need to accept it, engulf it, and just continue to power on. That's what essentially now the incentive, the Serenity Prayer is going to mean to me. When you were speaking, that's what I just got. Just move on. You're good. I can't change it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Those are the words that came out of your mouth. I'm like, she's living with this. I'm living with this. Neither one of us can do anything about it. So just listen to this little girl and move ahead and you'll be fine. And I'm not back. That wasn't a backhand. I just mean it out of love. All right. 3 completely stupid questions, and then we'll get into a couple more harder hitter things. Not really, really hard, but all right. You have to take Gangrel out of the equation, okay? Out of the equation. Would you rather have Edge or Christian in your corner?
Ooh. Yeah. Oh my. Gangrel was the leader, though.
I know. But you have to take him out of your corner. He's not it. Out of the Brood, you have to pick one or the other.
That is cruel.
Yeah, well, and I hope he listens.
I'll take Edge.
Okay. Would you rather be... I wrap this back around because it's me and you, essentially. Would you rather be a partner with my cousin Mercedes or Moxley?
Oh, that's a hard one. Maybe Mercedes. She's just such a badass.
She is. Yeah. She's the muscle of the Martinez family, for sure.
For real. Yeah.
And the stupidest one, when are you going to start doing TikTok dances? You're always flexing and everything, showing off your weights and how tough you are. We need to get some TikTok dances now. Or are you just never going to be a dancer?
If I start doing that, please, something is wrong. So just know something's wrong if I start with the TikTok dances.
All right. What are your goals the rest of this year, and then fast forward to 5 years in pro wrestling?
Okay. My goal for the rest of this year, my goal this year has actually been getting my body a little more and how I want it, a little more toned up, and to get more out of state shows. So that has been my goal this year. I would say my goal for 5 years. Yikes, that's so hard. It's hard to look in the future like that.
Right. Wrestling day by day. Wrestling is day by day. So these goals, they have to change.
Oh, absolutely, because you evolve as your character, as a performer, everything. So, but as of now, I would say to be consistently doing out of state shows. So not have 1 week no shows, or the next week maybe a couple local shows, and then at the end of the month I have a out of state show. I would say I would want to be booked every weekend, somewhere new, like Chicago next weekend, Georgia, something like that.
Yeah. Do you have a goal of one place in the world that you definitely want to wrestle? And I'm not saying organization. We all know everybody wants to get to one of the 3 big ones. So we know that. Cool.
Of course, yeah. Honestly, no. I've actually never thought of that. I've always wanted to go to what's it called? Seattle. I've always wanted to go to Seattle. I've never thought really to wrestle there, but I would. Why not?
Right? Make it a nice week-long vacation with a wrestling show at the end of it.
Yeah, right?
Or vice versa. Get beat up first and then have vacation.
That might be the better option, because then you got the beat up done and over with, and then you just enjoy you enjoy yourself the rest of the time.
Yeah. Either way it works. Never been to Seattle. I would love to go there too. I do hear it rains a lot, and that's whatever. It rains a lot.
I like the rain, but that could get annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you look back on yourself as you and your brother are watching wrestling? You're floating above yourself right now. Can you look back and say, damn, I made it?
No.
It's still surreal?
Mm, I mean, what's the definition of made it though? That's different for everybody.
Well, right. It became a professional wrestler then. Put it that way.
Okay, then yeah, yeah, I can. Like, yeah, I want that's what I wanted to do, and I learned how to do it, and I'm doing it. Yeah, and I'm doing it on shows. Yeah.
Okay. But now I'm gonna slap you in your face. And I mean this nicely. You know you made it. You know there's, and I don't know for a fact, but you know there's a little girl, a little boy, a 45-year-old, somebody out there that you now are their hero. And if you've touched one person in life, you've made it. I'm sure you've heard the story about how people come up to you, oh my God, we've battled back from what you have done, this, that, and the other. You are that, from all your setbacks to what you have conquered and kicked ass on. You are somebody's hero. Do you want to go back to the epilepsy story and the brain surgeries and everything? There's a little girl out there that, Anna Diaz is The Rock, John Cena. You are it. So I think you've made it.
Thank you. I do I love it whenever I go to shows and somebody in the crowd comes up to me and tells me their story and hey, I have epilepsy too, and I think you're the shit. I love hearing their stories and how unfortunate it is that they have it, but I love that they feel they can come to me and tell me that. So that's probably the greatest feeling I've gotten since I've started wrestling.
You have that, and it's not like you're dissing any other fans. You have that connection that what, again, boy or girl, whatever, you legit connect because you know the path that essentially they've been on. Everybody's path with, epilepsy isn't the same, but you feel where they are at some point in their life. So that connection is there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A couple other ones. What has wrestling brought to your life?
Well, one big one is a stepdad that, yeah, I mean, it's an obvious one that pretty much everybody knows about me. But he's a stepdad. He's my coach. He's literally he is my best friend and person I turn to for anything. So Gangrel, David, whatever, definitely him. If it wasn't for me wanting to wrestle, I would have never met him, and my life would have turned out a lot differently.
So family. And as I always say, because my mom taught me this before she passed, family's everything. That's number
Absolutely.
one in life. And then
Absolutely.
there's everything else. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love that. Again, chills. All right, so this is the one that is controversial once in a while, and you can answer it if you want, or you don't have to answer it, but wrestling has kind of stigmatisms linked to it. Some have been opened and some have been kind of changed recently. What could you change? What would you like to see continue to be changed in pro wrestling? Because there's some organizations that still are the good old boys. There's some organizations that LGBTQ is not prevalent, race, sex, and all of that. What do you see that needs a little help yet in wrestling?
That's a tough question. I mean, I'm sure a lot, but
Yeah,
I think maybe I'm trying to think how to word this. I think women that don't look like the stereotypical woman that you want to see on TV.
that's Anna. Honest to God, that's my number one. It really is, because that has been, I said the women carried the pandemic era that we've had between Sasha, Bailey, Asuka, and all of that. But it was those three. There was other, issues, body types, this, that, and that they just don't showcase. And that disgusts me yet. It really does.
Yeah, like I was a huge fan of Ruby Riott when she was in WWE, but they really didn't do much with her.
Right.
And she looked different. Like and if you look at her, she's beautiful. Like she's as beautiful as anybody else there. But they want tall, they want skinny, and she's in good shape as well. But they want long hair, makeup, like things of that nature. That clearly isn't her. That isn't me. I definitely don't look like the stereotypical girl with the short hair and like the lines on the side and like things like that. But that's just who I am. I rather dress in camo than dress up in
Sparkles.
Sparkles, pink or red, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think they need a little bit of more of that, like just diversity when it comes to women.
Agreed. All right, let me ask this, and then we'll let you sell stuff and tell us your socials and all of that. I want your dream match, and I know it can change this, that, and the other, but as of right now, in 2022, your dream match, but I put a caveat on it. Who, where, and the stipulation in the match?
Mickie James.
Okay.
I just like a basic one-on-one with her. I don't think I'd put a stipulation.
That's a stipulation within itself, so that's okay.
And maybe like a location or like a promotion.
A location.
Location.
Like the normal one is everybody wants Madison Square Gardens or everybody wants the
Yeah,
United Center. Yeah.
I'd be happy anywhere. Honestly, like I don't need it to be big. I'd be happy if it was a local show, to be honest, because I'm being able to work with somebody that's so experienced and so good. Like that,
legend,
that honestly wouldn't matter to me.
Okay. All right. Again, this is your time. Sell your stuff, sell your socials. Tell us where you're going to be here in the next little bit.
Well, actually, most of my shows are this month are actually going to be out of state, which I'm excited for. I have Mission Pro coming up, as well as I'll be in San Francisco soon. And socials are all Miss Anna Diaz, so that's MS Anna Diaz. And for my organization and all that good stuff, it's WWOFL.
Okay. They'll also be posted in the description link as well and tagged on every social media site that we're out there on. Did I miss anything? Do you want to bring anything else up in chat before I let you go?
I think we covered a lot. I'm just happy you wanted to have me on, honestly. Thank you for the thought and for the time to talk.
Yeah, for sure. We'll wrap back around, I'm sure, here in the near future, chat some more, and then maybe Stepdad can come on with you and tell some stories, huh? About how bad you are? No.
Hey, he can tell you some stories.
Oh, I know. Anna, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for, teaching us today, spending some time here on this holiday, essentially. And it's not your birthday. It's 4th of July. And just having some fun with us here on Can Crushers.
Well, thank you.
Guys, Anna Diaz. Holy moly. I'm taking a breath after that interview. The battles that she's had her whole life, and it's just the positivity that just rolls out of her mouth. You know, if she would be one, and I begrudgingly say this because I know she's not, and she's going to listen to this. If she would be somebody who would just hang around and not do anything the rest of her life. You know, how would you be upset with that? You know, the brain surgeries and knowing there's more to come in 8 years, essentially. We talked about the math online, or on the podcast. I mean, she just knows, and hopefully there is more to come, and there's more knowledge, and there's more development to epilepsy and what they can do for it. I really did learn a lot in this episode about what to do, and kind of if there are, talking about Anna's heat, and, you know, not having people in water that have epilepsy alone. And yeah, again, this was a learning one for me. I loved everything we talked about in wrestling. I hope we don't get her in trouble that she picked Edge over Christian, but she clearly wanted to take Gangrel, but, you know, I forced her hand. I said you couldn't. You have to. Guys, make sure you follow Anna. If not for anything else, the awareness that she's going to spread for epilepsy and be that advocate waving the flag. And she gave me a couple wins on this show. Not just one. She gave me a couple wins. So I'm going to run with it. Yeah, I'm going to run with it. What a great interview. Anna, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Loved having you on. We'll wrap back around again, have you on again here in the near future. So, yeah. All right, guys, remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.